This is RTP. This is RTP180.
Hi there, folks. So as you said, I'm Brian O Sullivan, and I'm here to talk about FIRST Robotics. Let me take a quick poll real quick. Who here is familiar with FIRST Robotics? Okay. All right, yeah, that's pretty decent. That's pretty decent. Who all knows of a young person who's on a FIRST Robotics team? Okay, a couple. Who all knows of a young person who's on a football team or a soccer team? Just knows of them, related to them. Come on, get the hands up. Okay, good. Keep that in mind. I don't want to say anything bad about football. You know, I'm a big fan myself. I won't tell you my favorite team though, because you'll boo me off the stage. But go Pats. So what I want to talk about is FIRST Robotics, in particular FIRST North Carolina, which is the North Carolina organization for FIRST Robotics. FIRST as a whole is a global nonprofit organization which runs robotics competitions for children and for teenagers. It's essentially a league for competitive robotics, all the way from elementary school up to high school. It's like the NCAA for grade school students. It's one of the largest and one of the oldest robotics competitions in the country. Some of the others are the Underwater Robotics Challenge or the dubiously named Best Robotics, however accurate that one might be. So in FIRST Robotics, there are four different groups, four different organizations. The very first one that was created, first, is the FIRST Robotics Competition, and it's for high school students. There's, you can see about 4,000 teams across the world who participate in that competition, and about 100,000 students who participate in it. They build large robots, 8 feet tall, 125-pound behemoths that compete against each other on competition fields. Next is the FIRST Tech Challenge. That's focused mostly on middle school, but also high school students. And they build smaller robots, a little bit less cost to enter, around 2 feet by 2 feet or so. And there's 7,000 teams there and 70,000 participants. Then the FIRST Lego League is the one below that, and that's mostly middle and elementary school students. They build robots that are based on the Lego Mindstorm system, and they're able to be held in one hand or maybe two hands, relatively small, but they have a ton of participants and a ton of teams, 40,000 teams globally, and 323,000 students participating in that across the world. Then the newest competition, although it's been out for quite a few years, is the FIRST Lego League Junior, and that's from kindergarten through 4th grade. So it's for really, really young students, but it's still using that same basic Lego that young people are familiar with. And that one has 21,000 and 127,000 participants across the world. Just for comparison, there are 15,000 football teams throughout the U.S. Just to give you kind of a reference there. So FIRST in general is so large that it needs local organizations to be able to run things. And FIRST North Carolina is a local organization for here in North Carolina. FNC, or FIRST North Carolina, runs the teams themselves. They try to create new teams. They focus on training teams, holding training sessions, things like that. And they try to spread FIRST throughout North Carolina as much as possible, hosting the competitions and all of that. As you can see back in the previous slide there, the Lego League competition is the one that really has the most amount of people involved in it. It's got a tremendous amount of young people, and part of that has to do with the low cost of entry. You're buying Lego kits and things like that, and you're kind of catching the students at a time where the stigmas of STEM and loving science and technology really haven't gotten baked into them. And you're also at the point where parents can tell them, hey, this is cool, you should do this, and they won't say, oh, you're lame, or you're you're ratchet, I think is what they say. I think some of my students are here. Do you guys say ratchet? Ratchets? No? All right. I guess I'm pretty ratchet. All right. Sorry, guys. So anyway, starting off, the FIRST Lego League Junior. So this is the one that is the most young students, kindergarten through 4th grade. Very involved still. So you can see kind of with the pictures there, these students have to build big Lego creations, a kind of Lego landscape, and then they design robots to move around in that Lego landscape. They want to keep things relatively simple because these are very young kids, 6 to 10 or so. So they keep it relatively small. It's more of a robotics festival than it is a hard-fought competition, but that fits well with the young students. In North Carolina, there are over 154 FLL junior teams, so comparative to clubs and things like that, but it's a huge organization that gets to do a lot of awesome things. Next up is FLL, again, the big one. So there's over 600 FLL teams in just the state of North Carolina. It's a massive organization, and really at this level, we get into an actual competition. So the robots that you see there, sort of in the picture on the left, they're held with two hands. They can be relatively big. A new team might make a smaller one. But they actually go out onto the fields there. You can see maybe like 8 feet by 8 feet or so. And it's kind of like what you might see on TV. Robots go out and try to complete different tasks for different points. They can complete as many tasks as they want. They can complete as few as they want. But they set them up, and they drive around to try to score the most points. So there are, in fact, winners of these competitions. They keep it relatively simple, but again, this goes up through middle school for some people who are involved. So there's a little bit of actual competition bit there. It makes it a little bit harder. And then they have to research and present on the particular topic. So with the FLO competition, they'll have a topic. You can kind of see that one. The mat there is a city typescape. And so there's always a theme that goes along with each game. And so these students, as well as building the robots, they have to build up their communication and their presentation skills to talk to judges about their particular research project that they're doing. Next up from that is the First Tech Challenge. It's 110 teams, and as you can see, it's bigger robots. They're 2 feet by 2 feet or so, a little bit bigger, a little bit harder to work with. The biggest competition is the First Robotics competition. Now, there's less teams involved, a little bit over 70 in North Carolina, but it's mostly because of the high cost of entry. But these robots are, like I said, 125 pounds, anywhere from 4 feet to 8 feet tall, massive, massive machines that have to drive around and compete. The field that they compete on is around 70 feet by 25 feet. And you can see there, that's the World Championship with 70,000 participants in attendance. It's absolutely massive. And you can see some of our students there after they were successful in winning the Wake County competition. So in the First Robotics competition, things start out in January. They release the game, and the games are sort of set up like, a basketball game or a soccer game or something like that. And you have to start out by analyzing what's the game. If you've never played basketball or soccer before, you need to start out with game analysis, figure out what strategy you want to do. Then you prototype things, and you design things, and you prototype things, and you design things, and you prototype some more. And eventually, at some point, you probably actually build them and test them. But often that gets left to the very end. And there's programming that's involved in, well, you can see on the right, we're prototyping over there, and then that's the design for this year's robot that our students did in CAD this year. When we actually go to competition, it's usually in massive event centers. So this is at the Campbell Arena we play in. There's around 30 to 35 teams that you compete against. You pair up with different robots, and you try to score the most points on the field. So this is very much head-to-head competition. You're playing against other people. You're not going out to do particular challenges, but you're trying to score as many points, stop your opponents from scoring points as well. So the founder of the first robotics competition is Dean Kamen, the inventor of the Segway. And no, he's not the guy who's dead. That's the owner of the Segway company in Britain. It's very different. So don't worry about him. He's still very much alive. But he says that the purpose of FIRST is to transform our culture by creating a world where science and technology are celebrated and where young people dream of becoming science and technology leaders. The focus of FIRST is to inspire young people. We all have people who we look up to or stars that we look up to, people in movies, football, all sorts of people that we idolize. But the goal is to get students to idolize people in STEM. And how do we do that? We actually celebrate those STEM people. We celebrate STEM heroes. We celebrate the students when they win competitions. I was on a lot of sports teams when I was in high school. I did swim and soccer and baseball and all that. And I did a First Robotics competition. And it's the Friday Night Lights of the mind. I mean, you go out there and you're controlling this robot that you spent hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of hours to build to compete against other high school students or younger who are incredibly excited about building a robot. It's transformative. We send students through our program each year, and I like to think that they are kind of different people that they come out than when they came in. If you want to get involved with First Robotics, here's a couple links you can go to. There's the First North Carolina webpage and an email up there that you can follow. The First Inspires webpage, that's the global organization. Or, of course, our link if you want to get involved and mentor our team or want to get involved and mentor any team around RTP or North Carolina as a whole. Please reach out. The program's founded on mentors, but it's about building better students. Thank you.